My name is David Mitchell. I'm 38 years old, and I'm sitting here today to tell you the most painful and most profound story of my entire life. A story that I've never fully told anyone before. A story that shaped who I am as a person. A story that taught me more about love, betrayal, forgiveness, and redemption than I ever could have learned any other way. But before I dive into what happened 5 years ago when Sarah called me asking for money, I need to take you back to the very beginning. I need to show you where I came from. I need to show you who I was before my world fell apart. I need to show you the journey that led me to this moment. I grew up in a small town called Beacon Falls in Connecticut. It's a quiet place. Tree-lined streets, good schools, safe neighborhoods. The kind of place where everybody knows everybody. The kind of place where doors were left unlocked. The kind of place where neighbors looked out for each other. My father was a high school teacher. He taught mathematics at Beacon Falls High School. He was respected in the community. Students loved him because he made math fun. He made math accessible. He made math feel like a game rather than a chore. My mother was a nurse at Beacon Falls Hospital. She worked in the cardiac unit. She took care of people during their most vulnerable moments. She showed them compassion and kindness, even when they were scared and in pain. We were a middle-class family. We weren't rich. We weren't poor. We were comfortable. We lived in a house with a nice backyard. We took family vacations every summer. We had everything we needed. But more importantly, we had love. My parents showed me what a real marriage looked like. They showed me commitment. They showed me sacrifice. They showed me what it meant to build a life with someone. They showed me what it meant to weather storms together. I had one best friend growing up. His name was James Patterson. We met in first grade when he knocked over my juice box at lunch and spilled it all over my shirt. Instead of getting angry, I laughed. He laughed. We became inseparable from that moment forward. For the next 12 years, we did everything together. We played sports together. We joined the same clubs. We went to school together. We dated girls together. We went to parties together. We got in trouble together. We got out of trouble together. James was like a brother to me. He was the person I trusted most in the world besides my parents. We made a pact when we were kids. We said that we would always be best friends no matter what. We said that we would support each other through everything. We said that we would be there for each other's weddings. We said that we would be there for each other's children. We said that we would be there for each other's biggest moments in life. We swore on it. We made a blood oath, like we were kids playing pirates. We really believed that nothing could break our bond. We really believed that we would be friends forever. When we graduated high school, James and I both went to the University of Connecticut. We lived in the same dorm freshman year. We were together constantly. People used to call us the dynamic duo. They used to say that you couldn't have one without the other. We were a package deal. We did everything together. We went to classes together. We ate meals together. We studied together. We partied together. We even had the same friend group. Everything in my life revolved around my friendship with James. During my junior year of college, I met Sarah. Her name was Sarah Thompson. She was in my marketing class. She sat 2 rows in front of me. I remember the first day of class. She walked in wearing a blue sweater and her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. She was absolutely beautiful. But it wasn't just her physical beauty that caught my attention. It was something else. It was her intelligence. It was her passion. It was the way she engaged with the material. She asked intelligent questions. She participated in class discussions. She clearly cared about learning. She wasn't just there to get a grade. She was there because she actually wanted to understand the concepts. After class, I worked up the courage to talk to her. I caught up with her in the hallway outside the classroom. My heart was pounding. I was nervous. I had never been good at approaching women. I said, "Hey, I'm David. I thought you had some really good points in class today." I was trying to compliment her. I was trying to start a conversation. She said, "Thanks. My name is Sarah." We talked for maybe 5 minutes in that. We talked about the class. We talked about the professor. We talked about what we were studying. Then she had to go to her next class. She said, "It was nice meeting you, Dave, but those 5 minutes changed my life." Those 5 minutes were the beginning of everything that would follow. I started going to that marketing class even more prepared. I started raising my hand more often. I was trying to impress her. I was trying to show her that I was intelligent too. I was trying to get her attention. I was trying to show her that I was worth talking to. And it worked. About 2 weeks into the class, she came up to me after class and said, "Hey, do you want to get coffee sometime?" My heart literally skipped a beat. I said yes immediately. I didn't even hesitate. I knew that this was my chance, and I wasn't going to miss it. We went to a coffee shop near campus called the Daily Brew. We sat for 3 hours and talked. We talked about our families. We talked about our dreams. We talked about our fears. We talked about everything. We talked about what we wanted to do with our lives. We talked about where we wanted to live. We talked about what we valued in a relationship. By the end of that coffee date, I knew that I was falling in love with her. I knew that she was special. I knew that she could be the one. I knew that I wanted to spend more time with her. I knew that I wanted to get to know her better. We started dating officially a few days later. Sarah and I spent almost every day together for the next 3 years. We went through college together. We studied together. We partied together. We traveled together during spring breaks and summer vacations. We met each other's families. My parents loved her. They thought she was wonderful. They thought she was kind and intelligent and beautiful. Her parents seemed to like me, though they were more reserved than my parents. They were more formal. They didn't show their emotions as openly as my parents did, but I got the sense that they approved of me. James was happy for me. He was genuinely happy that I had found someone. He said that Sarah was the one. He said that he could see us getting married and having kids and growing old together. He said that he was happy to be my best man whenever that day came. We laughed about it at the time. We were just joking around. But I stored that memory away in my heart. I stored that image away. I remember thinking that James would be the perfect best man. I remember thinking that there was no one else I would rather have standing next to me on my wedding day. During my senior year of college, I knew that I wanted to ask Sarah to marry me. I was only 21 years old, but I was certain. I didn't want to wait. I didn't want to take any chances. I didn't want to risk losing her to someone else. I wanted to lock this down. I wanted to make sure that she was going to be mine forever. I wanted to start our life together as soon as possible. I saved up money from my part-time job. I worked at a restaurant called Antonio's as a waiter. I worked there 3 nights a week. I saved every penny that I could. I put the money in a special account. I was working toward one goal, and that goal was an engagement ring. After about 6 months of saving, working long shifts, and dealing with difficult customers, I had enough money to buy a diamond ring. It wasn't the biggest diamond. It wasn't the most expensive ring. But it was beautiful, and it was meaningful, because I had worked so hard to get it. I had saved every penny. I had sacrificed and worked hard to make this ring a reality. I planned the proposal very carefully. I wanted it to be perfect. I wanted it to be romantic. I wanted it to be something that Sarah would remember for the rest of her life. I wanted it to be a moment that we would talk about for decades. I planned to propose on graduation day. I thought that was poetic. I thought that was a good way to start the next chapter of our lives together. I thought that graduating from college and getting engaged on the same day would be symbolic of new beginnings and fresh starts. Graduation day came. We were all dressed up in our caps and gowns. We were standing outside the university after the ceremony. The sun was shining. It was a beautiful day. I asked Sarah to walk with me to a quiet spot. I took her to the same coffee shop where we had our first coffee date, the Daily Brew. I got down on one knee. My hands were shaking. My voice was shaking. I told her that she was the love of my life. I told her that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. I told her that I wanted to build a life with her. I asked her to marry me. She said yes. She cried. She hugged me. She kissed me. Everyone around us started applauding. People in the coffee shop were cheering. It was one of the most perfect moments of my entire life. I was 21 years old and I was engaged to the woman of my dreams. I felt like the luckiest man in the world. James was there. He was at graduation with his family. When he saw me propose, he came over and hugged me. He said, "Congratulations, man. I'm so happy for you." He said, "I'm going to be the best man ever." We laughed. We embraced. We were both excited about the future. He seemed genuinely thrilled for me. He seemed like he was celebrating my happiness. After graduation, Sarah and I decided to get married pretty quickly. We didn't want a huge wedding. We didn't want some massive, extravagant event. We wanted something intimate, something small, something that would bring together the people that mattered most to us. We planned for the wedding to be about a year after graduation. We wanted time to plan, but we didn't want to wait too long. We wanted to get married while we were both excited about our future together. The year leading up to the wedding was magical. Sarah and I got an apartment together in Hartford, Connecticut. It was a 2-bedroom apartment in a nice part of town. We decorated it together. We picked out furniture together. We made it our home. We both got jobs. I worked for a marketing firm called Thompson Marketing Solutions. I was a junior marketing associate. Sarah worked for an advertising agency called Creative Minds Advertising. She was an account coordinator. We were building a life together. We were planning our future. We were talking about where we wanted to live in 5 years. We were talking about having kids. We were talking about growing old together. Everything seemed perfect. Everything seemed like it was going according to plan. James was around a lot during this time. He had taken a job as a consultant in Hartford, so he was living in the same area. He was helping me plan the wedding. He was my best man. He was involved in every detail. He went with me to pick out tuxedos. He went with me to pick out decorations. He went with me to taste test food for the reception. He gave a speech at the rehearsal dinner. He talked about how much he loved me and how much he was excited to see me marry Sarah. He talked about all the memories we had shared together. He talked about how happy he was for me. Everything seemed perfect. The wedding was planned for June. It was going to be at a beautiful church called St. Catherine's Church in our hometown of Beacon Falls. We were going to have about 200 guests. It was going to be a Saturday afternoon ceremony. The reception was going to be at a nice restaurant called the Grand Hall nearby. We had planned everything down to the smallest detail. We had chosen the flowers. We had chosen the music. We had chosen the food. We had chosen the decorations. Everything was perfect. Or at least it seemed perfect. About a month before the wedding, I started to notice something. I noticed that James was around Sarah a lot. Too much, maybe. He would come over to our apartment and they would talk. They would go out together to run errands. They seemed very comfortable with each other. I didn't think much of it at the time. I thought that they were just becoming friends. I thought that it was good that my best friend and my fiancée were getting along. I thought that they were bonding. But looking back now, I can see the signs. I can see the way they looked at each other. I can see the way they would laugh together. I can see the way they would touch each other on the arm when they were talking. I can see the way their body language changed when they were around each other. But I was blinded by my love for Sarah. I was blinded by my excitement about the wedding. I didn't want to see what was happening right in front of my face. I was choosing not to see it. I was willfully ignoring the signs. The night before the wedding, I couldn't sleep. I was so excited that I could barely sleep. My mind was racing. I kept thinking about the next day. I kept thinking about seeing Sarah in her wedding dress. I kept thinking about saying my vows. I had spent weeks writing and rewriting my vows. I wanted them to be perfect. I wanted to express exactly how much Sarah meant to me. I wanted everyone at that wedding to understand the depth of my love for her. I wanted to make her cry with happiness. I wanted to make a statement that would echo through time. I woke up at 5 in the morning. I gave up trying to sleep. I got out of bed and I went for a run. I ran through the quiet streets of Beacon Falls. The sun was just starting to come up. The world was peaceful and quiet. There were very few people out at that hour. I ran past the high school where my father had taught. I ran past the hospital where my mother had worked. I felt calm. I felt ready. I felt like I was about to embark on the greatest adventure of my life. When I got back from my run, my father was in the kitchen making breakfast. He was making eggs and bacon and toast. He looked at me and he smiled. He said, "You need to eat something, son. You need your energy for today." We sat down and ate breakfast together. My father was quiet. He was thinking about something. He seemed contemplative. He seemed emotional. Finally, he said, "David, I want you to know that I'm proud of you." He said, "I'm proud of the man you've become. I'm proud of the way you love Sarah. I'm proud of your commitment to her. I'm proud of your integrity and your character." He paused. He looked me in the eye. He said, "Marriage is not easy. It requires work. It requires compromise. It requires sacrifice. It requires patience and understanding. But if you go into it with love and respect, if you go into it with honesty and openness, it can be one of the greatest joys of your life." I thanked my father. I hugged him. I remember feeling very emotional. I remember tears coming to my eyes. I remember thinking that this was one of those moments that you never forget. This was a moment between a father and a son on the most important day of the son's life. I wanted to hold on to that moment forever. I wanted to remember every detail of it. As the day went on, I got ready for the wedding. I took a shower. I shaved very carefully. I put on my tuxedo. My best man, James, came over to the house to help me get ready. James was my oldest friend. We had known each other since first grade. We had done everything together. I trusted him more than I trusted anyone in the world besides my parents. He came into my room and he looked at me in my tuxedo. He smiled. He said, "You nervous, man?" I said, "Yeah, a little bit, but in a good way, you know? I'm excited. I'm ready." James said, "You should be. You're about to marry the most beautiful woman in the world." I said, "I know. I'm the luckiest man alive." James said, "Yeah, you are." I didn't see any signs of betrayal in James at that moment. I didn't sense anything wrong. He seemed genuinely happy for me. He seemed genuinely excited about the wedding. He seemed like he was looking forward to standing next to me at the altar. He seemed like my best friend. But now I know that appearances can be deceiving. Now I know that people can hide their true feelings and their true intentions behind a smile and kind words. We drove to the church in my father's car. James was in the passenger seat. We didn't talk much on the drive. We just listened to the radio. There was a comfortable silence between us, or at least what seemed like a comfortable silence. Looking back, I wonder if James was feeling guilty. I wonder if he was having second thoughts. I wonder what was going through his head as we drove to the church where I was supposed to get married. When we got to the church, there were already people arriving. There were cars in the parking lot. There were flowers and decorations outside. There was excitement in the air. There was anticipation. I was nervous but excited. This was it. This was the day that I had been waiting for. I waited in a back room of the church. I couldn't see the congregation. I could just hear the noise of people arriving and settling into their seats. I could hear the organ music. I was pacing back and forth. My hands were shaking slightly. My heart was pounding. This was it. This was the moment that I had been waiting for my entire life. This was the moment that I had dreamed about since I was a kid. This was the moment that everything had been leading up to. The priest came back and told me that it was time. He said that the ceremony was about to begin. He said that everyone was seated and ready. I took a deep breath. I tried to calm myself. I tried to center myself. I stepped out of the back room and I took my place at the altar. James stood next to me as my best man. We stood there in front of everyone, waiting for the ceremony to begin. The organ started playing the wedding march. This was it. Sarah was about to walk down the aisle. I looked toward the back of the church. I waited to see her. I waited for the moment that I had been dreaming about for months. I waited to see my beautiful bride walking down the aisle toward me. I waited to see her in her wedding dress. I waited to see the woman I loved more than anything in the world. But she didn't come. The music stopped. There was confusion. The priest looked confused. The organist looked confused. My mother looked confused. My father stood up. Everyone in the congregation looked confused. The energy in the room shifted. The anticipation turned to uncertainty. There was whispering. There was murmuring. Something was wrong. Everyone could feel it. I asked the priest, "What's going on?" The priest said, "I'm not sure. Let me go check." He left the altar, and he went to the back of the church to investigate what was happening. Where was Sarah? Why hadn't she walked down the aisle? What was going on? Time seemed to stop. Minutes felt like hours. I was standing at the altar, in my tuxedo, in front of 200 people, and I didn't know what was happening. James was standing next to me. He looked nervous. He looked uncomfortable. He looked like he wanted to be anywhere but here. I wondered why he was so nervous. I wondered if he knew something that I didn't know. Finally, the priest came back. He looked very serious. His face was grave. He said, "David, Sarah isn't here. She's not in the church. The bride's family is trying to reach her, but she's not answering her phone. Nobody can find her. Nobody knows where she is." I couldn't process what he was saying. I said, "What do you mean she's not here? She has to be here. We're getting married. We planned this. We've been waiting for this day for months." The priest said, "I know, but she's not here. She's disappeared." I stepped down from the altar. My legs felt weak. I walked to the back of the church. I saw Sarah's parents. Her mother was crying. Her father was on the phone. They looked frantic. They looked confused. They looked devastated. They looked like they had just received the worst news of their lives. I asked her mother, "Where is Sarah?" She said, "I don't know, David. She said she would be here. She had her dress on. She was ready to go. She looked beautiful. We were so excited. And then she said she needed some air. She said she would be back. But she never came back. She disappeared." I tried to call Sarah. Her phone went straight to voicemail. I called again. Same thing. Her phone was either off or she had blocked my number. I tried to call her parents again. They still didn't know where she was. They were just as confused as I was. They were just as devastated as I was. I tried to call James to ask if he knew anything, but James wasn't answering his phone. His phone kept going to voicemail. That's when I really started to panic. That's when I really started to realize that something was very, very wrong. That's when I started to have a terrible feeling that something terrible had happened. My father came and found me. He was walking through the chaos of the church, trying to find me. He said, "Son, we need to make an announcement. We need to tell these people what's happening. We need to tell them that the wedding has been canceled." I was in shock. I was in denial. I didn't want to believe what was happening. I didn't want to accept it. But my father was right. I needed to tell people. I needed to face reality. I needed to tell 200 people that the wedding was off. I walked back into the sanctuary of the church. I walked up to the front. I looked out at 200 people who had gathered to celebrate my marriage. I looked at their faces. I looked at my family. I looked at Sarah's family. I looked at my friends. They were confused. They were concerned. They were waiting for me to say something. And I had to tell them that the wedding was canceled. I had to tell them that the bride had disappeared. I don't remember exactly what I said. I remember that my voice was shaking. I remember that I was trying not to cry. I remember that tears were streaming down my face. I remember that I was trying to maintain my composure, but I was failing. I remember that I apologized for the inconvenience. I remember that I said there had been a change in plans. I remember that I said Sarah had decided not to go through with the wedding. I remember that I said I was sorry. I remember the looks on people's faces. I remember the gasps. I remember the whispers. I remember people standing up and leaving. I remember my mother crying. I remember my father putting his arm around me. After I made the announcement, I walked out of the church. I walked out the back door. I got in my car, and I drove away. I didn't know where I was going. I just needed to get away from everyone. I just needed to have time to think about what had happened. I just needed to process what was happening. I drove around for hours. I tried calling Sarah again and again. No answer. I tried calling James. No answer. I stopped at a gas station and I bought a coffee that I didn't drink. I sat in my car and I tried to make sense of what was happening. I kept thinking that maybe this was a prank. Maybe this was some kind of joke. Maybe Sarah would call me and tell me that she was sorry and that she had just been nervous. Maybe everything would be okay. But deep down, I knew that something was very wrong. Finally, I drove to Sarah's parents' house. When I got there, I saw James's car in the driveway. My heart sank. In that moment, I knew. I knew what had happened. I knew that James and Sarah had run away together. The evidence was right there in front of me. His car was in their driveway. That could only mean one thing. I went to the door and I knocked. Sarah's mother answered. When she saw me, she started crying. She said, "I'm so sorry, David. I'm so sorry." Sarah left this morning. She said she was going away. She said she was sorry. She said she couldn't go through with the wedding. She said she had to leave. And James, your friend James, he left with her. They left together. They drove away together. In that moment, my entire world fell apart. Not only had my fiancée abandoned me on my wedding day, but she had done it with my best friend. She had done it with the person I trusted most in the world besides my parents. It was the ultimate betrayal. It was the ultimate humiliation. It was the ultimate betrayal of trust. I remember standing in the doorway of Sarah's parents' house in my wedding tuxedo, and I remember thinking that my life was over. I remember thinking that nothing would ever be good again. I remember thinking that I would never recover from this pain. I remember thinking that I would never be able to trust anyone again. I remember thinking that I should just give up on life. I was 22 years old, and my life was falling apart. The days after the abandoned wedding were a blur of pain and confusion and devastation. I called Sarah's phone constantly. I called James's phone constantly. Neither of them answered. Neither of them responded to my text messages. It was like they had both vanished off the face of the earth. They had both disappeared. They had both abandoned me without explanation. They had both left me to deal with the fallout on my own. I posted on social media asking if anyone had heard from them. I posted asking if anyone knew where they were. Within hours, mutual friends started telling me that they had seen Sarah and James together. They had been seen leaving town together. They had been driving toward California. They had apparently planned this ahead of time. They had apparently planned to run away together while I was standing at the altar. The realization hit me like a physical punch to the stomach. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. This wasn't something that happened at the last minute. This was premeditated. This was planned. James and Sarah had been planning to betray me for weeks, maybe even months. They had been planning to run away together while I was standing at the altar, waiting for my bride who would never come. I started going through memories in my head. I started looking for signs that I had missed. I started thinking about all the times that Sarah and James had been together. I started thinking about conversations that I had overheard. I started thinking about the way they looked at each other. I started realizing that there had been signs all along. I had just been too naive to see them. I had been too trusting to see them. I had been too in love to see them. My mother came to stay with me in my apartment. She took a week off of work. She stayed with me and she took care of me. She made sure I was eating regular meals. She made sure I was showering and taking care of myself. She made sure that I was staying alive. She sat with me while I cried. She listened while I talked about what had happened. She validated my pain. She told me that what Sarah and James had done was wrong. She told me that it was not my fault. She told me that I had done nothing to deserve this. She told me that I was a good person and that good things would come to me. My father came over a few times and just sat with me. We didn't talk much on those visits. We just sat in the living room and we were there for each other. That was enough. Just having him there was enough. Just knowing that he supported me and loved me was enough. Over the next few weeks, I slowly started to realize the full scope of what had happened. I realized that I needed to cancel all the wedding plans. I needed to return the wedding dress. I needed to cancel the honeymoon reservation to Hawaii. I needed to cancel the hotel room that we had reserved. I needed to tell my employer that I wouldn't be able to start work as planned. I needed to deal with the logistics of a wedding that was never going to happen. Every time I made one of these calls, it felt like I was reliving the abandonment all over again. I also had to deal with the social fallout. Everyone in our small town knew about the wedding. Everyone knew that I had been abandoned at the altar. Everyone knew that my fiancée had run away with my best friend. I was the subject of gossip and pity. People would look at me with sympathy in their eyes. People would whisper about me behind my back. It was humiliating. It was embarrassing. It was the worst kind of public humiliation. But I also found support in unexpected places. My high school teachers reached out. My parents' friends reached out. My extended family reached out. They all told me that I would get through this. They all told me that it wasn't my fault. They all offered their support and their prayers. They all told me that I was a good person and that I deserved better than this. About a month after the abandoned wedding, I decided to start seeing a therapist. I found a woman named Dr. Jennifer Walsh, who specialized in trauma and betrayal. She had an office in a nice building downtown. I was nervous about starting therapy. I was nervous about opening up to a stranger, but I needed help. I knew that I couldn't get through this on my own. I knew that I needed professional support. I saw Dr. Walsh once a week for the next 3 years. During those 3 years, I unpacked everything that had happened. I talked about my relationship with Sarah. I talked about my friendship with James. I talked about the betrayal. I talked about the pain. I talked about my fear that I would never be able to trust anyone again. I talked about my fear that I would never be able to fall in love again. I talked about my shame and my embarrassment. I talked about the humiliation of being left at the altar. Dr. Walsh helped me understand that what had happened was not a reflection of me. She helped me understand that I had done nothing wrong. She helped me understand that I couldn't have known what was going to happen. She helped me understand that I needed to forgive myself for being human. I needed to forgive myself for falling in love with the wrong person. I needed to forgive myself for trusting someone who turned out to be untrustworthy. She helped me understand that Sarah and James had made choices. They had made the choice to pursue their feelings. They had made the choice to run away together. They had made the choice to betray me. Those were their choices. Those were their decisions. I was not responsible for their decisions. I could only control my own response to what they had done. As I healed, I started to go out more. I started to do things that I enjoyed. I joined a gym. I started running marathons. I started going to concerts. I started hanging out with friends from work. I was rebuilding my life. I was finding new hobbies and new interests. I was creating a new identity for myself that wasn't defined by the abandonment. About a year after the non-wedding, I started dating again. My first date was with a woman named Michelle. It was awkward. I was nervous. I was still hurt from what had happened with Sarah. But Michelle was patient with me. She understood that I had been through something traumatic. She understood that I needed time to heal. But it didn't work out. We dated for a few months and then decided to go our separate ways. It just wasn't the right fit. Over the next few years, I dated several women. Some relationships lasted a few months, some lasted longer, but none of them felt right. None of them felt like what I had with Sarah, but I realized that that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. What I had with Sarah was intense, but ultimately destructive. Maybe what I needed was something different. Maybe I needed something more stable and grounded. Maybe I needed to take my time and find the right person instead of rushing into things. I also reconnected with my friendship circle. I had distanced myself from a lot of people after the non-wedding because I was too embarrassed and too hurt to see anyone. But I started to reach back out. I started to rebuild those relationships. I spent more time with my parents. I traveled to see extended family members. I was rebuilding my social network. I was creating a support system around me. My career was also progressing well. I worked at Thompson Marketing Solutions for about 5 years. During that time, I was promoted several times. I started managing teams. I started leading big accounts. I started to establish myself as a competent professional. I was making good money. I was building a career that I could be proud of. I was building a life that made sense. After 5 years at Thompson Marketing Solutions, I decided to start my own marketing consulting business. It was a risky move, but I felt like I was ready. I had saved up some money. I had connections. I had experience. I had learned what worked and what didn't work. I felt like I could make it work. I felt like I could build something of my own. Starting my own business was one of the best decisions I ever made. I called my company Mitchell Marketing Consulting. I worked hard. I built a solid client base. I grew my business slowly and deliberately. I was very careful about who I hired. I was very careful about what clients I took on. I was very deliberate about the direction I wanted to take my business. By the time Sarah reached out to me 5 years later, my business was doing very well. I had about 15 employees. I had a nice office in downtown Hartford. I was making 6 figures. I had achieved financial success. I had built something that I could be proud of. I had turned my life around. I had rebuilt myself from the ashes. And then, one day, everything changed again. I was at work. I was in a meeting with my boss and some clients. I was presenting a marketing strategy for a new product launch. My phone buzzed. I had a text message from an unknown number. I didn't check it during the meeting because it was rude. But after the meeting was over, I looked at my phone to see who had texted me. The message said, "Hi David, it's me, Sarah. I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know you probably hate me, but I need to talk to you. Can we meet somewhere? It's important. I need your help." My heart immediately started racing. After 5 years of no contact, Sarah was reaching out to me. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know how I felt. I was angry. I was sad. I was curious. I was confused. I was all of those things at once. My emotions were all over the place. I didn't respond immediately. I waited a few hours. I thought about it. I thought about whether I wanted to see her. I thought about what she could possibly want. I thought about all the pain that she had caused me. I thought about all the hurt. I thought about whether I could even bear to be in the same room as her. Finally, I decided that I wanted to meet with her. I wanted to know what she wanted. I wanted to see her face. I wanted to understand why she had reached out after all this time. I wanted to get some kind of closure. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop, the same coffee shop where we had our first coffee date, the same coffee shop where I had proposed to her. The irony wasn't lost on me. When I walked into the coffee shop and saw her, I was shocked. She had aged. Her hair was different. She looked tired. She looked worn down. She looked like someone who had been through hell. She didn't look like the beautiful, vibrant woman I had fallen in love with. She looked like someone who was struggling. She looked like someone who was suffering. We sat down across from each other. There was awkward silence for a few. Then Sarah started to speak. She said, "David, I don't know where to start. I know that I have no right to ask for your forgiveness. I know that what I did was unforgivable. But I need to tell you what happened. I need you to understand why I did what I did." Sarah told me that she had left with James because she had gotten caught up in the moment. She said that she and James had developed feelings for each other during the months leading up to the wedding. She said that it had started innocently. They were just spending time together because James was my best man, and he was helping with wedding planning. But over time, the feelings had grown. By the time the wedding was supposed to happen, they were in love. Or at least they thought they were in love. She said that she had tried to fight the feelings. She said that she had tried to go through with the wedding. But the night before the wedding, James had come to her and told her that he loved her. He said that he couldn't watch her marry someone else. He said that he wanted to run away with her and start a new life together. He said that he would regret it for the rest of his life if he didn't take his chance. Sarah said that she had made a split-second decision. She said that she had decided to leave with James rather than go through with the wedding. She said that it was one of the most selfish decisions of her. She said that she realized now how much pain she had caused. She said that she had thought about me every day for the past 5 years. I listened to her story. I felt a lot of emotions. I was angry, but I was also, surprisingly, understanding. I knew what it was like to have feelings that you couldn't control. I knew what it was like to be in love. But I also knew that what she had done was wrong. It didn't matter what her feelings were. She should have told me. She should have called off the wedding before the day of. She should have given me the chance to understand. I asked her what had happened with James. I asked if they had gotten married. I asked if they were still together. Sarah's face fell. She said, "No, we're not together anymore. We were together for about 3 years after we left. We lived in California. We tried to make it work. But honestly, David, it was a mistake. It was a mistake from the beginning. James was not the man I thought he was. He was manipulative. He was controlling. He was emotionally abusive. After 3 years, I finally got the courage to leave him." That's when I asked the question that I think Sarah had been dreading. "Why are you calling me now? Why are you reaching out after 5 years? What do you want?" Sarah took a deep breath. She said, "I'm calling you because I need your help. I need your financial help. I'm in a difficult situation right now. I don't have a lot of money. I don't have a place to live. I'm working a minimum wage job. I'm struggling. And I heard through the grapevine that you had become very successful, that you had made a lot of money, that you were doing really well for yourself. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After abandoning me on my wedding day, after destroying me emotionally, after disappearing for 5 years, Sarah was now calling me to ask for money. The audacity was almost impressive. I said, "Sarah, let me make sure I understand what you're asking. You're asking me for money. You're asking the man you humiliated at the altar. You're asking the man whose heart you broke. You're asking me for financial help." She said, "I know it's a lot to ask. I know you have every right to say no. But I'm desperate, David. I don't have anywhere else to turn. My family has cut me off. James doesn't want anything to do with me. I'm alone and I'm struggling." I sat there for a long time without saying anything. I was processing what she had said. I was thinking about all the pain that she had caused me. I was thinking about all the nights I had spent crying. I was thinking about all the therapy I had needed to get over her. And now she was asking me for money. But here's the thing. I had also done a lot of healing. I had done a lot of growing. I had learned a lot about forgiveness. And while I was still hurt by what she had done, I was no longer destroyed by it. I told Sarah that I needed time to think about her request. I said that I couldn't give her an answer right then and there. I said that I needed to process everything that she had told me. I said that I needed to make sure that I was making the right decision for me, not for her. She understood. She gave me her phone number. She said to call her when I had made a decision. She said that she would be waiting to hear from me. After I left the coffee shop, I was in a state of confusion. I didn't know what to do. I called my parents. I told them that Sarah had reached out. I told them that she had asked me for money. My mother said that I shouldn't give her anything. My mother said that Sarah had made her choice, and now she had to live with the consequences. But my father said something different. My father said, "Son, you're a good man. You've worked hard and you've been blessed with financial success. What you do with that success is up to you. But I would encourage you to think about what kind of man you want to be. I would encourage you to think about forgiveness, not for her sake, but for your own sake." Over the next few days, I thought about what my father had said. I thought about whether I wanted to help Sarah or not. I thought about the kind of person I wanted to be. I also did some research. I found out that Sarah was telling the truth. She was working minimum wage jobs. She was living with roommates in a small apartment. She was struggling financially. She wasn't living a life of luxury somewhere. She was genuinely struggling. I also found out what had happened with James. I learned that he had moved back to Connecticut and was living with his parents. He was working for his father's business. Apparently, the relationship with Sarah had been as toxic as she had described. After a week of thinking about it, I made a decision. I decided to help Sarah, not because I owed her anything, not because I had forgiven everything that she had done. but because I wanted to be a person who helped people in need. I wanted to be a person who showed compassion. I wanted to be a person who didn't let bitterness consume me. I wanted to be a person who broke the cycle of pain and hurt. I called Sarah and told her that I wanted to meet with her again. We met at the same coffee shop. This time, I told her that I would help her financially, but with conditions. I said that I would help her pay for a 3-month course to learn a new skill. I said that I would help her find a better job. I said that I would give her enough money to get a place of her own. But I said that this was a one-time thing. I said that I couldn't be her ongoing support system. I said that she needed to rebuild her life on her own. Sarah was incredibly grateful. She cried. She thanked me over and over. She said that I had given her a second chance. She said that she would make the most of it. She said that she would never forget what I had done for her. Over the next few months, I helped Sarah. I helped her enroll in a program to become a paralegal. I helped her find job interviews. I helped her get a new job at a law firm. I helped her move into her own apartment. And then I stepped back. I let her live her life. I let her rebuild on her own. As for James, I never contacted him. He reached out to me once, about a year after my initial meeting with Sarah. He sent me an email apologizing for what he had done. He said that he had realized that what he had done was wrong. He said that he wanted to make amends. But I didn't respond to his email. I wasn't ready to forgive him. I might never be ready to forgive him. But I also wasn't going to spend energy hating him or thinking about him. I was just going to move forward. What I learned from this entire experience is that life is complicated. People are complicated. Betrayal is real and painful. But so is healing. And so is forgiveness. Not the kind of forgiveness where you pretend that nothing happened, but the kind of forgiveness where you acknowledge the pain, you acknowledge the wrong, but you choose to move forward. You choose to not let bitterness define you. Sarah and I are not best friends now. We are not romantic. We are not close. But we have a civil relationship. We are kind to each other when we see each other. We have moved on with our lives. I'm in a happy relationship now with a woman named Lisa. We've been together for 3 years. I can see a future with her. I can see myself marrying her someday. But this time, it's different. This time, I'm not rushing. This time, I'm taking my time to make sure that she's the right person. This time, I'm being more cautious. This time, I'm paying attention to the warning signs. This time, I'm making sure that I'm not repeating past mistakes. And as for James, I don't know what he's doing now. I don't keep tabs on him. I don't think about him anymore. I've forgiven him, not for his sake, but for mine. I've let go of the anger and the resentment. I've moved on. If you've been betrayed by someone you loved, if you've had your heart broken by someone you trusted, I want you to know that you're not alone. I want you to know that the pain is real. I want you to know that it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be hurt. It's okay to feel destroyed. But I also want you to know that healing is possible. I want you to know that you can move forward. I want you to know that you don't have to let this define you for the rest of your life. You don't have to spend the rest of your life carrying around the pain and the anger. You can choose to heal. You can choose to forgive. You can choose to move forward. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for allowing me to share my pain with you. I hope that my story has helped you in some way. I hope that it has given you hope. I hope that it has shown you that even in the darkest moments, there can be light. Comment below and let me know your story. I read every comment. I respond to many of them. I'm here to listen. I'm here to support. I'm here to help you understand that you're not the only one who has experienced this kind of pain and betrayal. Subscribe to my channel if this story resonated with you. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Share this video with anyone who might benefit from hearing this story. This is David Mitchell, and I'm going to be okay. We're all going to be okay. We're survivors. We're fighters. We're warriors. We're going to get through this. Together, we're going to heal. Together, we're going to move forward. Together, we're going to build a life that is better than anything we could have imagined. Stay strong, stay resilient, stay hopeful. And remember, the darkest nights produce the brightest stars. Epilogue, 5 years later. It's been 5 years since Sarah called me asking for help. It's been 10 years since she left me at the altar. In those 10 years, I've experienced more pain and more growth than I could have ever imagined. I've learned lessons about love, trust, betrayal, and forgiveness that most people never learn. I've been to the depths of despair, and I've climbed my way back to happiness and peace. Sarah is doing well now. After I helped her get back on her feet, she took that help and ran with it. She became an excellent paralegal. She's working at a respected law firm in Hartford. She's making good money. She's built a life for herself. She's dating someone new. I'm happy for her, I really am. Not because I still have feelings for her, but because I genuinely want her to be happy. I want her to have a good life. About 2 years after I helped her, I ran into Sarah at a restaurant in Hartford. We were both there with our respective partners. It was awkward at first, but then we went over to each other and we talked. We talked for a few minutes, we were polite, we were friendly, we had moved on. We had both created new lives for ourselves. James reached out to me again about a year ago. He sent me a message on Facebook. He said that he had been thinking about what he had done to me. He said that he had been reading about forgiveness and about making amends for past wrongs. He said that he wanted to apologize to me in person. He wanted to meet up and talk about what had happened. I thought about it for a while. I thought about whether I wanted to see James again. I thought about whether I was ready for that kind of confrontation. In the end, I decided that I wasn't ready. I decided that I didn't need to see him or talk to him. I told him that I forgave him, but that I didn't think it was a good idea for us to spend time together. I told him that I had moved on and that I needed to keep moving forward without him in my life. James understood. He said that he respected my decision. He said that he was just glad to know that I had forgiven him, even if we were never going to be friends again. I appreciated his response. It showed that he had done some growing and some healing of his own. My relationship with Lisa is going great. We've been together for 3 years, and we're talking about getting married next year. This time, I'm taking my time. This time, we're not rushing. We've been talking about having a wedding that's small and intimate. We've been talking about having just our closest friends and family there. We've been talking about making sure that everything feels right before we take that step. Lisa knows all about my past. She knows about Sarah. She knows about James. She knows about the abandoned wedding. She knows about all of the pain that I went through. But she doesn't judge me for it. She understands that these experiences have shaped who I am. She understands that I'm a better person because of what I went through. She loves me despite my past. She loves me because of my past. She sees my pain as part of what makes me who I am. I'm also doing really well professionally. My marketing consulting business has grown significantly. I now have about 30 employees. We have multiple offices. We're doing work for some of the biggest companies in Connecticut. I'm making very good money. I'm living a comfortable life. I've achieved the kind of success that I had always dreamed about. But more importantly than the money and the success, I've learned what really matters in life. I've learned that relationships matter more than money. I've learned that trust is more valuable than gold. I've learned that forgiveness is one of the most powerful tools we have. I've learned that pain can be transformed into growth. I've learned that betrayal can lead to wisdom. The lesson that I would like to leave you with is this. Life is going to throw difficult things at you. People are going to hurt you. People are going to betray you. People are going to disappoint you. But that's not the end of the story. That's the beginning. What matters is how you respond. What matters is whether you let the pain destroy you or whether you let the pain shape you into a better person. I could have spent the rest of my life being bitter about what Sarah and James did to me. I could have spent the rest of my life hating them. I could have spent the rest of my life being afraid of love and trust. But I didn't. I chose a different path. I chose to heal. I chose to grow. I chose to forgive. And I'm so glad that I made that choice. Because the life that I have now is so much better than the life I would have had if I had stayed stuck in my anger and my pain. If you're going through something similar right now, if you're dealing with betrayal or pain, I want you to know that there is hope. I want you to know that healing is possible. I want you to know that you can come out of this stronger than you were before. It won't be easy. There will be days when you feel like you can't go on. There will be days when you feel like the pain is too much to bear. There will be days when you wonder if you'll ever be happy again. But I'm telling you that you will. I'm telling you that I did. I'm telling you that it's possible. Reach out for help. Talk to a therapist. Talk to your family. Talk to your friends. Don't try to go through this alone. There are people who care about you. There are people who want to help you. Let them in. Be patient with yourself. Healing doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. It takes work. But it's worth it. You're worth it. And remember, what happened to you doesn't define you. Your past doesn't define your future. You have the power to write your own story. You have the power to create the life that you want to live. This is David Mitchell. I'm 38 years old, and I'm telling you that life gets better. I'm telling you that healing is possible. I'm telling you that you're going to be okay. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for allowing me to be vulnerable with you. Thank you for taking the time to hear my message. I hope that this story has given you hope. I hope that it has shown you that even in the darkest times, there can be light. I hope that it has inspired you to take the first step toward healing. This is David Mitchell, and I'm going to be okay. We're all going to be okay. I want to go into more detail about what the actual therapy process was like because I think many of you watching might benefit from understanding what mental health treatment looks like. When I first called Dr. Jennifer Walsh's office, I was terrified. I was calling to schedule an appointment to see a therapist, and I was ashamed. I felt like going to therapy meant that I was broken. I felt like going to therapy meant that I was weak. I felt like I should be able to handle this on my own. But my mother encouraged me to call. She said, "David, there's no shame in getting help." She said, "Some of the strongest people I know go to therapy." She said, "Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of wisdom." So I called Dr. Walsh's office. I spoke to her receptionist. She was very kind. She asked me when I wanted to schedule an appointment. I said as soon as possible. She had an opening the following Tuesday. I took it. When I went to my first appointment, I was nervous. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what therapy would be. I had this image in my head of a stern old man sitting behind a desk judging me for my problems. But Dr. Walsh was not like that at all. She was a woman in her 50s. She had warm eyes. She had a kind smile. She had an office that was comfortable and welcoming. In that first session, Dr. Walsh didn't ask me a bunch of questions. Let me talk. She let me tell her my story. She let me talk about Sarah. She let me talk about James. She let me talk about the abandoned wedding. She let me talk about the pain. She just listened. She didn't judge me. She didn't try to fix me. She just listened. At the end of that first session, Dr. Walsh said something that helped me understand what therapy was going to be like. She said, "David, healing is not about forgetting what happened. Healing is about integrating what happened into your life in a way that doesn't control you anymore. Healing is about being able to think about what happened without feeling destroyed. Healing is a process, and we're going to work through it together." Over the course of the next 3 years, I saw Dr. Walsh every week, sometimes twice a week. We worked through a lot of difficult material. We talked about my relationship with my parents. We talked about what love meant to me. We talked about why I had rushed into a proposal at such a young age. We talked about what made me vulnerable to betrayal. We talked about my fear of being alone. We talked about my fear of never finding love again. One of the things that Dr. Walsh taught me was about attachment styles. She explained to me that the way we attach to other people is often formed in childhood based on our relationships with our parents. She said that my parents had been very loving and supportive, which was great. But it also meant that I had learned to trust people easily and to believe that people would always be there for me. She said that this could make me vulnerable to betrayal because I wasn't cautious enough about who I trusted. She taught me about healthy relationships and what the warning signs of unhealthy relationships are. She taught me to pay attention to how people treated me. She taught me to notice if people were making me feel good about myself or if they were making me feel bad about myself. She taught me that my intuition was important and that I should listen to it. One of the most important things that Dr. Walsh taught me was about boundaries. She said, "David, having boundaries is not about being cold or unfriendly. Having boundaries is about respecting yourself. Having boundaries is about knowing what you will and won't tolerate in your relationships. Having boundaries is about communicating your needs to other people and expecting them to respect those needs." We practiced setting boundaries in therapy. We would do role plays where she would play the role of Sarah or James, and I would practice setting boundaries with them. I would practice saying no. I would practice expressing my feelings without being aggressive or mean. It felt awkward at first, but it became easier over time. About a year into therapy, I remember having a session where I felt like I had made a major breakthrough. I was talking about what happened with Sarah and James, and I realized that I was talking about it without feeling like my chest was being crushed. I realized that I could think about the abandoned wedding without feeling destroyed. I realized that I was healing. Dr. Walsh asked me what was different now compared to a year ago. I said, I think I've stopped blaming myself. I think I've stopped thinking that I did something wrong. I think I've accepted that sometimes bad things happen to good people. I think I've accepted that people make choices that hurt other people and that those choices are not my responsibility. Dr. Walsh smiled and she said, That's a huge breakthrough. That's what healing looks like. That's what progress looks like. Another important part of my therapy was learning about forgiveness. We spent several sessions talking about what forgiveness meant and whether I wanted to forgive Sarah and James. At first, I said no. I said I didn't want to forgive them. I said they didn't deserve my forgiveness. But Dr. Walsh helped me understand that forgiveness is not about the other person. She said, Forgiveness is about you. Forgiveness is about releasing yourself from the burden of anger and resentment. She explained that holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. She said, Sarah and James are not suffering because you're angry at them. You're the one suffering. Forgiveness is about freeing yourself from that suffering. That concept changed my perspective. I started to see forgiveness not as something that I was doing for them, but something that I was doing for myself. I started to see that by forgiving them, I was freeing myself to move on with my life. One of the things that I was afraid of after my experience with Sarah was that I would never be able to trust anyone again. I was afraid that I would be suspicious of every person I dated. I was afraid that I would always be waiting for the betrayal. I was afraid that I would never be able to have a healthy relationship again. But through therapy and through my own self-work, I learned that I could have healthy relationships. I learned that not every person is going to betray me. I learned that most people are good and trustworthy. I learned that just because one person betrayed me doesn't mean that everyone will. When I started dating again, I was more cautious. I was more aware of red flags. I was more aware of how people treated me. I was more aware of whether people made me feel good about myself or bad about myself. This caution actually helped me have better relationships because I was choosing people more carefully. I dated several women before I met Lisa. Some of those relationships lasted a few months. Some lasted longer. Each relationship taught me something. Each relationship helped me understand what I wanted and what I didn't want in a partner. Each relationship helped me understand myself better. By the time I met Lisa, I had healed enough that I could actually be present in a relationship. I could actually be vulnerable without being terrified. I could actually open my heart without being completely reckless. I had learned the balance between being open and being cautious. I had learned the balance between trusting and protecting myself. One of the things that I wish someone had told me when I was going through the worst of my pain is that time really does heal all wounds. Not that the wounds disappear completely, but that they become less acute. They become less painful. They become manageable. Right after the abandoned wedding, I thought that I would never feel joy again. I thought that I would spend the rest of my life in pain. I thought that 5 years later, I would still be devastated. But I wasn't. 5 years later, I had healed significantly. 10 years later, I could think about what happened and feel sad, but I wasn't destroyed by it. Time is a powerful healer, but time alone is not enough. You also have to do the work. You have to go to therapy. You have to process your emotions. You have to work on yourself. You have to make conscious decisions about how you're going to move forward. But when you do that work and you give it time, healing is possible. As I stand here today at 38 years old, I can say that I've come a long way from that 22-year-old boy who was abandoned at the altar. I've healed. I've grown. I've built a successful business. I've found love again with Lisa. I've helped hundreds of people through my foundation. I've created a life that I'm proud of. But I also want to acknowledge that I still feel the pain sometimes. There are still moments when I think about what happened and I feel sad. There are still moments when I remember how humiliated I felt standing at that altar in front of 200 people. There are still moments when I remember how betrayed I felt when I realized that my best friend and my fiancée had run away together. But the difference now is that those moments don't define me anymore. Those moments don't control my life anymore. Those moments are just moments. They're part of my history, but they're not my future. I'm building my future with Lisa. I'm building my future with my business. I'm building my future with my foundation. I'm building a future that is full of purpose and meaning and love. And to anyone listening to this who is going through betrayal right now, I want you to know that your story doesn't have to end the way that you think it's going to end. Your story doesn't have to be defined by betrayal. Your story can be about healing. Your story can be about growth. Your story can be about redemption. It takes time, it takes work, it takes courage, but it's possible. I'm living proof that it's possible. This is David Mitchell. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for allowing me to share my journey with you. Thank you for caring about my healing. Thank you for letting me help you on your own journey. I hope that you take something meaningful away from this story. I hope that you find the courage to seek help if you need it. I hope that you find the strength to move forward. I hope that you find the love that you deserve. Stay strong, stay resilient, stay hopeful. The darkest nights do produce the brightest stars. This is David Mitchell. I'm 38 years old, and I'm going to be okay. We're all going to be okay. Together, we're going to heal. Importance of professional help. I've learned that there's no shame in going to therapy. I've learned that talking to a professional can help us process our emotions and move forward. I've learned that mental health is just as important as physical health. I've learned about the importance of having a support system. I've learned that we can't do this alone. I've learned that we need people who care about us. I've learned that we need people who will support us through difficult times. I've learned that reaching out for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. I've learned about the importance of self-care. I've learned that taking care of myself is not selfish. I've learned that I need to prioritize my own well-being. I've learned that I can't help other people if I'm not taking care of myself first. I've learned about the importance of forgiveness. I've learned that holding on to anger and resentment only hurts me. I've learned that forgiveness is not about the other person. I've learned that forgiveness is about me and my own peace of mind. I've learned about the importance of creating a meaningful life. I've learned that money and success are nice, but they're not what makes life meaningful. I've learned that helping other people is what makes life meaningful. I've learned that making a positive impact on the world is what makes life meaningful. If you're listening to this story and you're currently going through betrayal or trauma, I want you to know that I see you. I see your pain. I understand your pain. I've been where you are, and I'm telling you that it gets better. It might not get better today. It might not get better this week. It might not even get better this year, but it will get better. Healing is possible. Recovery is possible. A better life is possible. Reach out for help. Call a therapist. Talk to your family. Talk to your friends. Don't try to go through this alone. There are people who care about you. There are people who want to help you. Be patient with yourself. Healing doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, it takes work, but you're worth it. Your life is worth it. Your happiness is worth it. And remember, what happened to you doesn't define you. Your past doesn't define your future. You have the power to write your own story. You have the power to create the life that you want to live. This is David Mitchell. I'm 38 years old, and I'm telling you that life gets better. I'm telling you that healing is possible. I'm telling you that you're going to be okay. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for allowing me to be vulnerable with you. Thank you for taking the time to hear my message. Thank you for caring about my journey. I hope that this story has given you hope. I hope that it has shown you that even in the darkest times there can be light. I hope that it has inspired you to take the first step toward healing. Stay strong, stay resilient, stay hopeful, and remember, the darkest nights produce the brightest stars. This is David Mitchell. And I'm going to be okay. We're all going to be okay. I want to be very clear about something. When you go through betrayal, when you go through trauma, when your world falls apart, the first thing you need to do is take care of your basic needs. You need to sleep, you need to eat, you need to move your body, you need to take care of your physical health. Too many people neglect their physical health when they're going through emotional trauma, and that only makes things worse. Your body and your mind are connected. If you're not taking care of your body, you can't heal your mind. After the abandoned wedding, one of the things that saved my life was running. I started running every single day. I would wake up in the morning and I would put on my running shoes and I would run. I would run for an hour or sometimes 2 hours. I would run until I was exhausted. I would run until I couldn't think about Sarah and James anymore. I would run until the pain was replaced by physical exhaustion. Running became my therapy before I started seeing Dr. Walsh. Running became the way that I processed my emotions. Running became the way that I took care of myself. And I'm so grateful that I found that outlet because it helped me survive the darkest period of my life. I also want to talk about the importance of sleep. When you're going through trauma, sleep is often difficult. Your mind is racing. Your emotions are overwhelming. You can't turn your brain off. But sleep is so important for healing. Sleep is when your brain processes emotion. Sleep is when your body repairs itself. Sleep is essential for recovery. I remember nights when I couldn't sleep. I would lie in bed for hours, staring at the ceiling, thinking about what had happened. But I realized that I needed to do something to help myself sleep. So I started doing things that made sleep easier. I started exercising during the day so that I would be tired at night. I started avoiding caffeine in the afternoon. I started going to bed at the same time every night. I started reading before bed to calm my mind. Slowly, my sleep improved. I also want to talk about nutrition. When you're going through trauma, eating becomes difficult. Food tastes like nothing. You forget to eat, you're not hungry. But your body needs fuel to heal. Your brain needs fuel to process emotion. So I made a conscious effort to eat regular meals, even when I wasn't hungry. My mother was very helpful during this time. She would make sure that I ate breakfast. She would make sure that I ate lunch. She would make sure that I ate dinner. She would sit with me while I ate. She would encourage me to keep eating even when I wanted to give up. Having someone there to support me in taking care of my basic needs was so important. The other thing that really helped me was surrounding myself with positive people. After the abandoned wedding, I had two choices. I could isolate myself and pull away from everyone. Or I could reach out to people and let them support me. I chose the second option. I called my friends. I told them what happened. I asked if they would spend time with me. Most of them said yes. Most of them were there for me. But I also had to cut out some toxic people from my life. There were people who would make comments about what had happened that made me feel worse. There were people who would tell me that I should get over it. There were people who didn't understand what I was going through and who weren't supportive. I had to distance myself from those people. I had to make a conscious decision to surround myself with people who lifted me up instead of tearing me down. One of those people was my college roommate, Marcus. Marcus and I lived together for 4 years. We were close friends. When everything happened with Sarah and James, Marcus was there for me. He came to my apartment. He sat with me. He didn't try to fix me. He just let me be sad. He just let me be angry. He just let me feel everything I was feeling. Having Marcus there was so important. Another person who was important was my cousin, Jennifer. Jennifer had also gone through a difficult breakup a few years before my experience with Sarah. She understood what I was going through. She understood the pain. She understood the betrayal. She would call me and check on me. She would share her own story of how she had healed. She would tell me that healing was possible because she had done it. I also want to talk about what it means to have hope. When you're in the depths of despair, when you're in the darkest place, hope can be hard to find. But I want to tell you that hope is essential for healing. Hope is what keeps you going when everything seems impossible. Hope is what allows you to believe that things can get better. For me, hope came in different forms at different times. Sometimes hope came from talking to my parents. My parents would tell me that I was going to get through this. My parents would tell me that they believed in me. My parents would tell me that my life was not over. Hearing them say those things, hearing someone that I trusted say those things, gave me hope. Sometimes hope came from talking to my therapist. Dr. Walsh would remind me that healing was possible. She would remind me that I had already made progress. She would remind me that I was stronger than I thought I was. Hearing those things from a professional who understood trauma gave me hope. Sometimes hope came from small victories. One day, I realized that I had gone a whole day without thinking about Sarah. One day, I realized that I had laughed. One day, I realized that I was starting to enjoy things again. These small victories gave me hope that bigger healing was possible. I want to talk about the concept of self-compassion. When I was going through trauma, I was very hard on myself. I blamed myself. I told myself that I was stupid for not seeing the signs. I told myself that I was weak for not being able to get over it quickly. I told myself that I should just move on and stop complaining. But Dr. Walsh taught me about self-compassion. Self-compassion means treating yourself the way that you would treat a friend who was going through the same thing. If my best friend had been abandoned at the altar by his fiancée and his best friend, I wouldn't tell him to get over it. I wouldn't blame him for not seeing the signs. I would be gentle with him. I would be kind to him. I would tell him that what he's going through is difficult and that it's okay to take time to heal. So I started practicing self-compassion. When I found myself being hard on myself, I would stop and I would ask myself, what would I say to a friend in this situation? And then I would say those things to myself. It took practice, but over time, I became more compassionate toward myself. I became kinder to myself. I became more accepting of where I was in my healing journey. I also want to talk about the power of gratitude. When you're going through trauma, it's easy to focus on what you've lost. It's easy to focus on the pain. It's easy to focus on what went wrong. But I found that practicing gratitude helped me shift my perspective. Every day, I would write down 3 things that I was grateful for. Some days, those things were big. I was grateful for my parents' support. I was grateful for my therapist. I was grateful for my dog. But some days, those things were small. I was grateful for a good cup of coffee. I was grateful for a sunny day. I was grateful for a friend who called to check on me. Writing down these things every single day helped me realize that even though I had experienced betrayal and pain, there was still good in my life. There was still reason to be grateful. There was still reason to hope. This practice of gratitude shifted my perspective and helped me heal. I want to talk about the importance of creating new routines and new habits after trauma. After the abandoned wedding, my life had been completely disrupted. Everything that I thought my life was going to be had changed. The wedding that I had planned didn't happen. The life that I thought I was going to have with Sarah didn't happen. Everything was different, so I had to create new routines and new habits. I had to figure out what my life was going to look like now. I had to create a new normal. I started creating new routines. I started going to the gym every morning at 6. I started running every afternoon at 5. I started meal prepping on Sundays. I started going to therapy every Tuesday at 3. I started having coffee with my friend Marcus every Thursday morning. These routines gave me structure. These routines gave me something to hold on to. These routines gave me a sense of control when everything felt out of control. Over time, these routines became habits. These habits became part of my new life. These habits helped me move forward. I also want to talk about the importance of setting goals. When you're going through trauma, it's easy to just focus on surviving. Just getting through each day feels like an accomplishment. But after I had survived the initial shock, I started to think about what I wanted for my future. I started to think about what I wanted to accomplish. I started to set goals. My first goal was to finish therapy. I wanted to work through my trauma with Dr. Walsh. I wanted to get to a place where I could think about what had happened without being destroyed by it. That goal took about 3 years to accomplish, but I accomplished it. My second goal was to start my own business. I wanted to build something of my own. I wanted to prove to myself that I could be successful despite what had happened to me. That goal took about 5 years to accomplish, but I accomplished it. My third goal was to fall in love again. I wanted to prove to myself that I could trust someone again. I wanted to prove to myself that I could have a healthy relationship. That goal took about 6 years to accomplish, but I accomplished it when I met Lisa. Having goals gave me direction. Having goals gave me purpose. Having goals gave me something to work toward. And as I accomplished those goals, I gained confidence. I gained self-esteem. I gained proof that I was capable of great things. I want to talk about the importance of forgiveness, not just of other people, but of yourself. One of the hardest things that I had to do was forgive myself for the mistakes that I made in my relationship with Sarah. I had to forgive myself for not seeing the signs. I had to forgive myself for rushing into a proposal. I had to forgive myself for being too trusting. I had to forgive myself for being naive. Dr. Walsh spent a lot of time helping me understand that I couldn't have known what Sarah and James were going to do. She helped me understand that I had done the best that I could with the information that I had at the time. She helped me understand that making mistakes in relationships doesn't make me a bad person. It makes me human. Forgiving myself was actually harder than forgiving Sarah and James. It took longer. It was more complicated. But it was so important, because I couldn't move forward if I was carrying around guilt and blame toward myself. I had to let go of that. I had to accept that I had made mistakes, but that those mistakes didn't define me. The final thing that I want to talk about is the importance of helping others as part of your healing journey. One of the most powerful things that happened in my healing was when I decided to start my foundation and when I decided to help Sarah rebuild her life. Helping others gave my pain purpose. Helping others helped me understand that my experience, as painful as it was, could help other people. There's a concept called post-traumatic growth. It's the idea that after going through trauma, a person can actually grow in important ways. A person can develop more compassion. A person can develop more resilience. A person can develop a deeper appreciation for life. Post-traumatic growth doesn't mean that the trauma was good. It just means that something positive can come from something negative. My experience with Sarah and James was painful. It was traumatic. It was one of the worst things that I've ever been through. But from that pain, I've developed compassion for people who are suffering. I've developed resilience in the face of adversity. I've developed a deeper appreciation for the people in my life. I've developed a desire to help others. I've experienced post-traumatic growth, and I believe that you can too. No matter what you're going through right now, no matter how painful it is, no matter how much you're suffering, I believe that you can grow from this. I believe that you can use your pain as fuel for change. I believe that you can use your pain to help other people. I believe that you can experience post-traumatic growth. This is my final message to you. This is David Mitchell. I'm 38 years old, and I'm telling you that healing is possible. I'm telling you that recovery is possible. I'm telling you that a better life is possible. I'm telling you that you're going to be okay. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for allowing me to share my journey with you. Thank you for caring. Thank you for being here. Stay strong, stay resilient, stay hopeful. And remember, the darkest nights produce the brightest stars. I want to end this by sharing some practical advice for anyone who is currently going through betrayal or trauma. First, reach out for help. Call a therapist. Call a trusted friend. Call your family. Don't try to go through this alone. There are people who care about you and who want to help you. Let them help you. Second, take care of your physical health. Exercise. Eat nutritious food. Get enough sleep. Your body and your mind are connected. Taking care of your body helps your mind heal. Third, practice self-compassion. Treat yourself the way that you would treat a friend who was going through the same thing. Be kind to yourself. Be gentle with yourself. Accept that healing takes time. Fourth, create new routines and new habits. Give yourself structure. Give yourself something to hold on to. Give yourself a sense of control. Fifth, set goals for yourself. Give yourself something to work toward. Give yourself a sense of purpose. Sixth, practice gratitude. Write down 3 things that you're grateful for every single day. Focus on what you have rather than what you've lost. Seventh, find ways to help other people. Use your pain to help others. Use your experience to make a positive impact on the world. Eighth, be patient with yourself. Healing doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. It takes work. But you're worth it. Your healing is worth it. And ninth, remember that you're not alone. Millions of people have gone through betrayal. Millions of people have gone through trauma. Millions of people have healed. You can too. I'm David Mitchell. I'm 38 years old. And I'm telling you that you're going to be okay. We're all going to be okay. Together, we're going to heal. Together, we're going to move forward. Together, we're going to build a life that is better than anything we could have imagined. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Thank you for being here. This is David Mitchell signing. I want to share one more thing before I finish. I want to share what I wish someone had told me right after the abandoned wedding. I wish someone had told me that what happened was not my fault. I wish someone had told me that I was not to blame. I wish someone had told me that Sarah and James made their own choices, and those choices were not my responsibility. I wish someone had told me that I was a good person who had trusted the wrong people, not that I was a bad person who deserved what happened. I wish someone had told me that the pain I was feeling was temporary. I wish someone had told me that, although it felt like I would never feel joy again, that eventually I would laugh again. I wish someone had told me that healing was possible. I wish someone had told me that I should not blame myself for not seeing the signs. I wish someone had told me that betrayal is a choice that other people make, not something that I caused. I wish someone had told me that it was okay to cry. It was okay to be angry. It was okay to feel destroyed. I wish someone had told me that these emotions were valid and normal. I wish someone had told me that reaching out for help was a sign of strength, not weakness. I wish someone had told me that going to therapy was a brave decision, not something to be ashamed of. I wish someone had told me that I would fall in love again. I wish someone had told me that I would trust someone again. I wish someone had told me that I would have a healthy relationship. I wish someone had told me all of these things, and now I'm telling them to you. I'm telling you that what happened to you is not your fault. I'm telling you that the pain is temporary. I'm telling you that healing is possible. I'm telling you that you will feel joy again. I'm telling you that you will laugh again. I'm telling you that you will love again. I'm telling you that you will trust again. I'm telling you that you're going to be okay. We're all going to be okay. This is David Mitchell, and I believe in you. I believe that you can survive this. I believe that you can heal from this. I believe that you can build a better life from this. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for allowing me to be vulnerable with you. Thank you for caring about my journey. Thank you for letting me help you on your journey. I hope that this story has given you hope. I hope that it has shown you that even in the darkest times, there can be light. I hope that it has inspired you to take the first step toward healing. Stay strong, stay resilient, stay hopeful. Remember that the darkest nights produce the brightest stars. This is David Mitchell. I'm 38 years old, and I'm going to be okay. We're all going to be okay, together. Before I finish, I want to tell you a little bit more about what my life looks like now. Today, I wake up next to Lisa. We're planning to get married next year. We're planning to have a small, intimate wedding with just our closest family and friends. We're planning to travel. We're planning to build a life together. And I'm excited. I'm genuinely excited about our future together. I go to work at my office where I manage a team of 30 talented people. We do meaningful work. We help companies succeed. We build campaigns that make a positive impact. I'm proud of the work that we do. I'm proud of the team that I've built. In the evenings, I work on my foundation. I read emails from people who are going through betrayal. I respond to people who need support. I help coordinate programs and counseling sessions. I do this work without pay because it's meaningful, because it helps people, because I believe that my pain can be transformed into purpose. On weekends, Lisa and I do things that we enjoy. We travel. We go to restaurants. We spend time with family and friends. We go for runs together. We laugh. We enjoy life. This is the life that I've built. This is the life that I've created. This is the life that I never thought I would have after the abandoned wedding. And I want you to know that you can build a life like this too. You can have a life that's full of meaning. You can have a life that's full of purpose. You can have a life that's full of joy. It takes time. It takes work. But it's possible. I'm David Mitchell. I'm 38 years old. And this is my story. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. Thank you for allowing me to share my journey with you. I hope that my story has helped you in some way. I hope that it has given you hope. I hope that it has shown you that even in the darkest moments, there can be light. Stay strong. Stay resilient. Stay hopeful. The darkest nights produce the brightest stars. This is David Mitchell, and I'm going to be okay. We're all going to be okay. I want to address something that might be on your mind right now. You might be wondering if I still think about what happened. You might be wondering if I still feel the pain sometimes. And the answer is yes. I still think about what happened sometimes. I still feel the pain sometimes. But it's different now. The pain is not overwhelming. The pain is not all-consuming. The pain is just a memory. The pain is just a part of my history. There are still moments when I think about the abandoned wedding and I feel sad. There are still moments when I remember how humiliated I felt standing at that altar. There are still moments when I remember how betrayed I felt when I realized that James and Sarah had run away together. But these moments don't last long anymore. These moments don't control my life anymore. I feel the sadness, I acknowledge it, and then I move on. That's what healing looks like. That's what recovery looks like. It's not about forgetting what happened. It's not about pretending that the pain never existed. It's about integrating what happened into your life in a way that doesn't control you anymore. I also want to tell you that if you're reading this or listening to this and you're in a situation where you've been betrayed or hurt, you deserve support. You deserve compassion. You deserve healing. You deserve a better future. And I want you to know that I believe in you. I believe that you can survive this. I believe that you can heal. I believe that you can build a beautiful life despite what has happened to you. This is my final message. This is David Mitchell. I'm 38 years old, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the pain that I experienced because it shaped me into who I am today. I'm grateful for the betrayal because it taught me about forgiveness. I'm grateful for the abandoned wedding because it showed me how strong I am. I'm grateful for everything that I've been through because it's all led me to this moment. This moment where I can tell you that healing is possible. This moment where I can tell you that recovery is possible. This moment where I can tell you that you're going to be okay. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for caring about my journey. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your healing journey. I believe in you. I believe in your strength. I believe in your resilience. I believe in your ability to heal and to grow and to build a beautiful life. This is David Mitchell, and I'm going to be okay. We're all going to be okay. Together, we're going to heal. Together, we're going to move forward. Together, we're going to build a life that is better than anything we could have imagined. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. This is David Mitchell signing off.